let me just start with your new leader. I know you're a fan of Kemi Badenoch. I've been quite critical in that, and I'm being honest, I haven't heard a lot, and I've been told repeatedly by Tories, Kemi's getting her head down trying to work out where we went wrong, and she wants to be careful before she says things. She pitched up this morning with Mike. Let me just play you what she said about Rachel Thieves, who me and Mike have renamed Richard III. Have a look. This is Kemi Badenoch on Mike's Morning Glory. Have a listen.
I think in any other field, she would have, but I think she's actually one of the best that they've got on the Labour bench.
That's the bad news,
which is what's really sad. That if she goes, we're likely to get someone much worse. You listen to Labour backbenchers, and a lot of the things that they ask for are completely crazy. They would bankrupt the country tomorrow. But I do think that she's out of her depth. But being the first female whatever is not an achievement if you're doing a bad job.
No.
And it's the people that you're working for that should give a verdict on whether you've achieved something or not.
Yeah.
And the mistakes that she made in that budget are what she's trying to fix now with the emergency budget that we're getting tomorrow. This is not something that's reacting to world events. She made errors, problems have been caused, and now she's going to try and fix them again tomorrow.
Jonathan, I think that anybody with respect can look at Rachel Thieves and assume that she hasn't done the best job. She took over a country, for all of its problems, that had the leading economy in the G7. That's one of the things that the Tories left that was in good hands. They talked about growth, and we seem to be on a backside, unable to even finance the interest on the debts that we've got. Kemi's very calm. I'm going to be really honest about Kemi Badenoch. I think she's a nice lady and probably a good politician. Does she have the oomph, Jonathan Gullis? Because I know it's not probably people will go, what are you talking about? Does she have the charisma to lead the Tories out of the wilderness? Every time I see her, I'm not that convinced. I'm just being honest. I could be wrong.
No, look, Jeremy, I think your criticism has been fair, that I think Kemi has not been as present on the media airwaves and out in the public as much as I'd like her to have been initially. However, what I will say is she does have an abundance of personality, and actually what I want to see is more of that natural personality come out. And I think at PMQs, for example, I feel like part of that is she's overthinking the questions, and actually she's at her best when she's on the back foot, when she's responding to confrontation. She does have a very feisty personality in the positive sense, not in the way that...
Well, this is what I was going to ask you, because a lot of her critics, when she got the job and when the campaign was on, were saying she's actually bloody difficult to work with. She's quite feisty. She puts her foot down. She upsets people. I just wonder whether this whole approach is not natural, and it's been a bit, I'm holding the reins in here, I'm making sure I don't put my foot in it. Maybe Kemi Badenoch needs to just show, as you say, her real personality. I mean, for example, the other thing that, she talked about Rachel Reeves. Nobody anywhere can think that Rachel Reeves is doing a competent job, can they? Let's be honest. Tomorrow is absolutely, as Kemi Badenoch said, to rectify the disaster of October. And the number one disaster of October was, we want growth, but we're going to screw any business that's small or medium sized. That's a fact.
Well, I'm sure Margaret Thatcher was called a bloody difficult woman to deal with, and I want Kemi Badenoch to be that same type of leader, because ultimately it's awkward people, difficult people who challenge those who work with them and around them that drive the best results. You don't become successful by just towing a line, by being Mr. Nice Guy or Mrs. Nice Guy all the time. And as you say, Rachel Thieves graced her presence in Stoke-on-Trent yesterday, but I tell you what, Stoke-on-Trent Labour kept that one quiet. They weren't keen to wave the flag around, because as you say, what do we know what she's done since her Halloween budget continues to haunt the great British public? We see debt up, borrowing up, inflation up, taxes up, energy prices up, despite promising to cut them by £300, jobs lost, pensioners freezing, and family farms closing. This is the disaster of this current Labour government, and tomorrow is simply about Rachel from accounts fiddling the figures to try and cover up her mess and restore a black hole that she herself has created by over-borrowing to a massive degree, by over-promising and failing to deliver on those promises, and ultimately, as you say, talking down the economy so much that doom and gloom has spread, sadly, across the sectors.
The problem, and you know, we're mates, but I'm always straight on the show. The problem that you lot have, and I'm being completely serious, is that you must sit there, Tories, and think, this is a disaster, and they're only in because of our bloody incompetence, because we've repeatedly said this, you and I, the British public stopped listening. I can't believe, I mean, I said it yesterday, I genuinely, I'm not into saying that things are going to happen very quickly, but I do believe that all politicians, Jonathan, of all sides, right, need to wake up and realise that I mean, if you look at Trump, right, whatever anybody says about the orange man baby, and there's plenty of flaws, I want a politician, be it Kemi Badenoch, Jonathan Gullis, Keir Starmer, I don't care, right? I want somebody to stand up and say to the British people, and I said it yesterday, right, this is what I believe in. I believe in low taxation. I'm going to make you richer, prouder, safer, and I'm going to make this country more prosperous by not allowing people to have the very things that you lot have paid for. I don't care what anybody tells me. I think that would resonate with millions of people across this country. We have a dearth of politicians in my mind who are almost too scared to lose their job so they don't do their bloody job. I want somebody to stick their neck on the line like Trump and say, do you know what? I don't care if you try and take me legally, you try and slag me off in the newspapers, there's a vendetta. I believe, and Thatcher was the last example. I said this yesterday. Margaret Thatcher said that great line, you can turn, I'm not turning. And if you disagreed with Margaret Thatcher and the Tory party in the 90s, you got sacked. Of course, by 19, whenever it was, the 400, there was 399 in the room who had been sacked, and there was her, and they got rid of her. But in those 10 years, you felt that there was a leader, whether you loved her or you didn't agree with her, I don't know, that stood by what she believed in. And I don't see that conviction anymore. So I'm just being honest. I don't see that in Kemi Badenoch. I don't see it in Starmer. I see accountants-based people who listen to, focus groups and, who will I upset less? I want conviction. Make mistakes, but be honest about it.
So look, Jeremy, I think I'm one of the most outspoken people when I was in Parliament, because like you say, I had belief and courage in my convictions. My granddad told me that if you want to work in politics one day, then be willing to take on the punches that will be thrown at you, because if you believe that you're right and what you stand up for, then the silent majority will always be with you. And I will say that, look, let's be frank, the most genuine, authentic character out there is Nigel Farage in terms of personality. But I will say this. Kemi Badenoch is a very principled politician. Believe me, I've been in some rooms where I asked her, for example, about should we lift the ban on grammar schools. And she came back when she was running for leader back in 2022, in a time when you expect everyone to say everything you want them to say to you. And she said, at this moment in time, absolutely not. That should be off the table. And in a room of very like-minded individuals, that was a brave thing to say, because ultimately that would have maybe lost with some colleagues at that time in the room with her. So I think the fact that she was brave and bold enough to do that and say that to my face in a private meeting says that when she knows what her plan is, when she knows where she wants to go direction-wise, she's going to stick to it. But like you say, what we need her to do is show more of that personality, more of that pizzazz, which I know that she has, but we need to see it more.
She needs to before it's too late, because I know this isn't a popular. I don't think she's got that long unless she does something and moves the dial. Now, today, in that talk exclusive with Mike, here's the thing. She said they could support a lift on the ban on fracking. This is Kemi Badenoch with Mike this morning. Have a listen.
A lot of people think that we should be fracking, but I also know that many communities don't want it where they are, that it causes problems for them. We need to make sure that we've got local consent for things like that, not just imposing it. So how do we make sure we've got a plan that goes across the board, that works, that is not going to bankrupt us? That's what I'm working on now.
You see, there again, and I know it's hard, and I know that my approach is quite idealistic, right? Donald Trump says, drill, baby, drill, JG. And if you get in the way of him, he'll take you to court or he'll sue you or he'll shut down your business. And people think that's absolutely appalling. But is it? She's still sat on the fence there. Explain to me. I want a politician to explain, but try you, right? Explain to me why we've got a government in power who are trying to screw farmers to the point where they steal their land to build wind farms who might or not be having solar panels made by slaves. We all know that that's not going to create enough electricity. So we then know that the government will have to import it, which will make our bills go up. Why are we not, as a society, able to say, I use housing as another example. We need houses. Build the bloody houses, find areas. I don't care. They're a brown, what do they call it? Green zones, brown. I don't care. There must be places we can build bloody houses on, right? I don't believe there aren't. Same thing, underneath our ground, we've got stuff that would give us money. We wouldn't have to import it. Drill, baby, drill. Oh no, we'll upset the environmentalists. Tough. And he said titty. I have said it now. Tough. We're at a point as a country where we seem to spend so much time excusing the inability to just do something. I want action from do you understand what I mean by that? Frack, because we've got it under the ground. It's a resource, for God's sake.
So, Jeremy, Trump has obviously decided, very rightly so, that in America, what's the best way to bring down household bills to make sure people aren't poorer? Cheap energy. And so you are right. We should be we should not be apologising. We should be drilling in that North Sea for all the oil and gas. And with fracking, look, it is contentious, and Kemi is right, in my opinion, to look at it, but come up with a solution that's best. Now, my opinion would be, if there are companies that will be making lots of money from fracking, then the communities around that fracking centre could have their energy bills subsidised or indeed paid for directly as a gift for those for allowing the fracking to take place. That is a win for those individuals with their household bills. That's a win for the great British public in terms of getting cheap energy from out under the ground. And then double down on nuclear, small modular nuclear reactors. Why is Ed Miliband not talking about that? As you say, I represented in Stoke-on-Trent the ceramics industry. We use gas. Solar panels and wind farms are not going to burn a fire in the kilns to create pots and pans, and electric kilns simply don't produce the product at the same quality, and hydrogen kilns are still in the test phase and may not well be safe enough to have in built up communities. Let
me try something, right? Let me try something to the audience. Peeps, do you support fracking? Just hear me out 1 second. It's like housing. All these politicians get very sanctimonious. We need more houses, not in my constituency. Well, yes, it might have to be in your bloody constituency. Fracking. Are we beset by this desire to do right environmentally the whole time to the detriment of our finances? Or do we need to make a decision like Trump and go, what? We're going to drill. What do you make of that? 0344 499 1000, the usual telephone number. Our Jodie's here. You can send a WhatsApp message on the same number. 0344 499 1000. Get your call in now. Text us. Do you agree with fracking? Is it worth it? I think it's absolutely worth it. 872222. Oh, we'll have upset the friends of the earth. I don't care. Do you know what I mean? Honestly, 872222. Friends of the earth. Just eat some spinach and leave me alone. 872222. Start your message with the word talk. Do you support fracking, JG?
I'm certainly willing. Yes, I'd be willing to do it. But as I say, you'd have to have those right incentives, because unlike America, we haven't got the same landmass. So as I say, if you can come up with a way that people who would be directly impacted by fracking nearby could have their bills subsidised heavily or indeed paid for, then let's crack on with it. Let's use every energy resource we have in our power and within our reach as a nation, so we're not reliant on the rest of the world. And let's get rid of this notion that somehow tons of solar panels is somehow going to power this country, and loads of wind farms are going to power this country by themselves. Are they part of the energy mix? Yes. Should we be doubling down on them solely? No. And Ed Miliband needs to stop trying to kiss the backside of Greta Thunberg and focus on what the British people want. They promised to cut energy bills by £300, and yet since they've come into power, we've had increases in energy bills by around £300. I
think so much of what Labour has said is a lie. And the way they went to the farmers' conference and lied to farmers, the way they're trying to grab their land to instigate this ridiculous...
Jeremy.
And hear me out. I was listening to Mike the other day. Here's the truth about net zero. Just get your environmental head off a minute. And the Tories, I'm a big fan of Boris Johnson, or was. It started there. The truth of the matter is, this ridiculous belief that we can be net zero by 2050, whilst the rest of the world frankly doesn't give a toss, is going to further bankrupt the United Kingdom. People need to wise up. North Sea oil and gas under the sea is ours, and it's worth money. Utilise it, for Christ's sake. And what, you seen this story today about Miliband? Labour will be turning a blind eye to slavery. What does that mean? If it blocks a bid to ban ministers from buying solar panels feared to be made with forced labour. MPs warned last night. Peers had sought to stop taxpayers' cash from being used to buy products from a company where there was credible evidence of modern slavery. But again, all the morality of Ed Miliband goes out the window. He wants to build his solar panels. He believes he's going to change the world. I think he's a dangerous man, by the way. Dangerous man. Dangerous man.
So Ed Miliband and Bridget Phillips are the two most dangerous ministers, I think, in this government. And as you say, with the slave labour element, why would Ed Miliband not want, for example, the UK to manufacture our own solar panels so we can actually create jobs in our country and have UK-sourced type materials? Why are we relying on China, and let's be frank, an enemy of ours, who will have access to our technology and our infrastructure by installing these type of things? And as you say, are using slave labour. It's the hypocrisy again. If the Conservatives were doing this, Labour would be going potty on their side.
Well, it's really interesting, actually. I had this conversation a couple of weeks ago. You think about it. Labour talked about cutting benefits. The Tories tried to do that. We are going to kill all the poor people, is what was said. They tried to increase defence spending. We haven't got the money. Of course there's hypocrisy, and it must be very, very frustrating. Can I just throw out the ultimate story. I don't want to see Ed Miliband. It makes me. I can't never see a picture of that man without thinking about that poor bacon roll. Can I throw out? I need you, Jonathan Gullis. You're an elected member of Parliament to explain this to me, because although I'm 60 soon, I don't understand it. This is according to our new Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner. People mistakenly identified as Muslims could be victims of Islamophobia under her new definition. Her department oversees community relations and has today proposed that other faith groups who could be perceived as Muslim will be covered by her planned new definition for Islamophobia or anti-Muslim hatred. This could include atheists. It could include Sikhs, Hindus, Jain and Buddhists, according to the terms of the reference for a new working group she set up to advise ministers and draw up a non-statutory definition of Islamophobia.
Blasphemy laws, Jeremy, are dangerous. Religion is something that people are willing to believe or not believe in. I myself...
We're going to make a new law to support my Jewish friends whose kids get abused in the street? No, of course we're not going to, are we?
Well, this is the problem, Jeremy, isn't it? Once you introduce blasphemy laws, you mean that anyone who starts to criticise another faith, whether it's nicely said or not, but are we really going to arrest people for criticising other faiths? You can think someone's stupid. You don't have to arrest them and criminalise them. You know, at the end of the day, this is what the danger with this is. And as you say, I wish that Labour MPs in particular be more passionate when we saw the vile hate marches on the streets of London, supporting Hamas, a terrorist organisation that murdered over 1,400 innocent women and children. It's amazing how on that one they were silent and they're happy to say that Israel's committing genocide, but God forbid they find the backbone to suddenly call out an actual terrorist group and people in Gaza who are fully supportive in aiding and abetting that terrorist group. And we should be unashamedly supporting our Israeli friends and unashamedly standing with the Jewish community. Now, no Muslim should fear any hatred for their faith.
Absolutely.
But no Christian, no Buddhist, no Sikh should also get abused for their faith. But blasphemy laws have no place in this country. The moment we introduce that, talk about free speech is going to be ripped up, because anyone saying anything critical will be deemed to be spreading hate and will therefore create criminalisation. I want my police locking up drug dealers, locking up thieves, locking up rapists, banging up murderers, and most importantly, catching those filthy nonces that plague our communities. That's what I want them to focus on, not monitoring what we say online about religion. People say stupid things, fine them, but you don't need to waste time criminalising them.
Could not agree with you anymore on that. And before you go, as the former deputy chair, this story will civil servants and politicians have been given a gadget limit after a taxpayer-funded splurge on iPads. The new order has been issued by the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, DEFRA, and limits civil servants and other officials to 2 taxpayer-funded electronic devices. The limit was put in place after the number in that one department, 6,000. Did you get an iPad when you were the leader, deputy leader, the deputy chairman? Yes or no?
No.
And if you had, would you have given it back?
Yeah, because the Conservative Party funded it. I got one from IPSA when I was elected. They gave us a staffing, but they gave us a IT budget when you're newly elected. They gave me a laptop and an iPad that they had chosen to purchase on my behalf, and then took it out.
You'd be useless in court. You'd be useless in court, man. You absolutely... Bless him, he's straight out with it. I wasn't me, Governor. I didn't nick the iPad.
No, but I would say... No, but I'm just saying how it works. And I was always bemused why I was given things before being allowed to choose if I wanted them or not, because I'm an old-fashioned laptop guy. I'm not really able to do...
You're talking to a man who started doing his first maths O-level with a slide rule. It's always a pleasure to have you on. JG, we love you. Jonathan Gullis, former deputy chair of the Tory party.